December 10, 1944. 2:30 hours. Ziegenberg Castle, Germany. The castle is cold, ancient stone that holds no warmth even with fires burning in every room. Deep in the basement, converted into a command bunker, Colonel Friedrich August Freiherr von der Heydt sits across from Field Marshal Walter Model. Between them, spread across a massive oak table, are photographs. Dozens of them. American generals, each one meticulously studied, analyzed, catalogued. Von der Heydt is Luftwaffe, a paratroop commander, but tonight he's here for his other expertise, intelligence assessment. Model has summoned him because Operation Wacht am Rhein, the Great Ardennes Offensive, is 5 days away, and the Field Marshal wants confirmation. Walk me through them again, Model says, lighting a cigarette. Every commander will face. Von der Heydt picks up the first photograph. A stern face, cautious eyes. General Omar Bradley. Commands 12th Army Group. Defensive-minded, methodical. He'll wait for orders from Eisenhower before committing reserves. Response time, 36 to 48 hours minimum. Model nods. Next. General Courtney Hodges, 1st Army. Currently holding the Ardennes sector. Von der Heydt taps the photo. Adequate commander but unimaginative. His divisions are spread thin, he believes the Ardennes is a quiet sector for rest and refit. When we attack, he'll pull back and consolidate rather than counterattack. Predictable. Good. Montgomery? Field Marshal Montgomery. Von der Heydt's tone carries a hint of respect. Commanding 21st Army Group in the north. Brilliant defensive commander, but cautious to the point of paralysis. He'll fortify a line and dare us to attack it. He won't risk an aggressive counteroffensive without overwhelming superiority. Response time, 1 week, possibly longer. Model is smiling now. Every assessment confirms what the German High Command has calculated: the Americans will be slow to react, fragmented in their response, defensive in their thinking. And the most dangerous one? Model asks. Von der Heydt doesn't hesitate. He picks up a photograph of a man with cold eyes and pearl-handled revolvers on his hips. General George S. Patton. 3rd Army. The temperature in the room seems to drop. But he's 100 miles south, Model says. Fighting in the Saar. His army is committed to a completely different offensive. Yes, sir. And intelligence confirms his supply lines are stretched, his divisions are engaged, he has no reserves positioned for rapid deployment. That's correct, sir. Model stubs out his cigarette. Then why is he the most dangerous? Von der Heydt stares at Patton's photograph for a long moment. Outside, snow is beginning to fall, the same snow that will blanket the Ardennes in 5 days, the same snow that German planners are counting on to ground Allied aircraft. Because, Von der Heydt says slowly, every other American general fights the battle in front of him. Patton fights the battle he thinks is coming next. Model frowns. Explain. 3rd Army doesn't operate like other American commands. Patton's staff maintains contingency plans for scenarios that haven't happened yet. His intelligence section tracks our movements even in sectors he's not fighting in. His logistics officers pre-position supplies for operations they haven't been ordered to conduct. Von der Heydt pulls out a sheaf of reports. We've intercepted radio traffic showing 3rd Army staff conducting war games, theoretical exercises for rapid redeployment north. When? 3 weeks ago. The room goes silent except for the crackling of fire. Model leans forward. You're telling me Patton has been planning for an offensive in the Ardennes? Our offensive? No, sir. I don't think he knows the specifics. But I think he's planned for the possibility. The Americans have a saying: Patton doesn't react to the enemy, he anticipates them. Model picks up Patton's photograph, studies it like he's trying to read the man's thoughts through the image. How long would it take him to redeploy 3rd Army north? Von der Heydt hesitates. This is the calculation that matters. This is what the entire offensive hinges on. Standard American doctrine suggests 7 to 10 days to disengage from current operations, reorient, and attack in a new direction. With winter conditions, possibly 2 weeks. And Patton specifically? Von der Heydt meets his commander's eyes. I don't know. And that's what makes him dangerous. Model drops the photograph back on the table. It doesn't matter. By the time any American force can respond in strength, we'll have crossed the Meuse, taken Antwerp, and split their armies in half. The war will be decided before Patton even knows we've attacked. Von der Heydt wants to believe that. Every calculation supports it. Every piece of intelligence confirms it. But he's spent 2 years studying American commanders, and George S. Patton doesn't behave like the others. There's something else, Von der Heydt says quietly. What? 3 days ago, 3rd Army intelligence officers were spotted near St. Vith, that's 50 miles inside 1st Army's sector. They had no operational reason to be there. When questioned by American MPs, they claimed they were conducting terrain reconnaissance for future contingencies. Model's expression doesn't change, but his fingers drum once on the table. Future contingencies, he repeats. Yes, sir. You think Patton suspects? I think Patton always suspects. Von der Heydt gathers the photographs, but he leaves Patton's on top of the pile. Every other Allied general is fighting the war that's happening. Patton is fighting the war that might happen. That's why our intelligence can predict Bradley, Hodges, Montgomery. We know their doctrine, their temperament, their response patterns. But Patton? He shakes his head. We can track where he is. We just can't predict where he'll be. Model stands, walks to the map of the Ardennes. Red arrows mark the planned German offensive, 3 armies, 29 divisions, 250,000 men driving west through the weakest point in Allied lines. The Führer has calculated we have 2 weeks before American reserves can threaten our flanks, Model says. Our intelligence confirms this timeline. Yes, sir. Then we proceed as planned. Von der Heydt salutes and turns to leave. But at the door, he pauses. Sir? Permission to speak freely? Model nods. I've been studying American commanders for 2 years. I can tell you what Bradley will do, what Montgomery will do, what every corps and division commander will do when we attack. He glances back at the table, at Patton's photograph still sitting on top of the pile. But if there's one miscalculation in our planning, it's assuming we have 2 weeks. Because if Patton decides to move, he doesn't finish the sentence that he doesn't need to. December 10, 1944. 1400 hours. 3rd Army Headquarters, Nancy, France. 200 miles south of Ziegenberg Castle, in a requisitioned French schoolhouse, General George S. Patton stands in front of a map that covers an entire wall. His staff is gathered around him, Colonel Oscar Koch, his intelligence officer, Colonel Walter Muller, his operations chief, Major General Hobart Gay, his chief of staff. They're supposed to be planning the next phase of 3rd Army's offensive into the Saar, pushing toward the Rhine. Instead, Patton is staring at the Ardennes. Tell me again, he says to Koch. Colonel Koch flips open his intelligence summary. He's a careful man, methodical, the opposite of Patton in temperament but perfectly matched in paranoia. Rail traffic behind German lines has increased 40% in the last 2 weeks. Fuel dumps are being established near Bitburg and Prum. Radio intercepts suggest at least 6 divisions have moved into assembly areas facing the Ardennes sector. Hodges knows this? 1st Army intelligence has the same information. And their assessment? Koch's pause is telling. They believe it's a defensive buildup. That the Germans are preparing to resist our advance when we eventually push through the Ardennes. Patton turns from the map, his expression carved from stone. They're preparing to attack. Sir, there's no confirmation. I don't need confirmation. I can read a map. Patton's finger traces the Ardennes sector, a 70-mile front held by 4 American divisions, most of them either green or recovering from heavy fighting elsewhere. It's the weakest point in our entire line. If I were a German commander looking to cause chaos, that's exactly where I'd hit. Colonel Muller steps forward. Even if they do attack there, General, it's First Army's sector. Not ours. Patton looks at him like he's just suggested the sun rises in the west. You think when the Germans break through Hodges' line and start rolling toward Paris, Eisenhower's going to leave us fighting in the Saar? He shakes his head. We'll be pulled north to stop them. Question is, do we wait to be ordered, or do we prepare now? The room is silent. This is vintage Patton, seeing 3 moves ahead, planning for battles that haven't been authorized, operating on instinct and intelligence that no one else trusts. What do you want us to do? Gay asks carefully. Patton walks back to his desk, pulls out a notepad. He's already been writing. Already been planning. I want 3 contingency plans. Plan A, German attack in the north, we pivot and attack their southern flank. Plan B, German breakthrough toward Liège, we drive north and cut them off. Plan C, German push for the Meuse crossings, we relieve whatever units get surrounded. He looks up. I want logistics calculated, routes planned, and division commanders briefed by tomorrow. Sir, Muller says slowly, that's asking staff to plan for operations we haven't been ordered to conduct, in sectors we don't control, against an enemy attack that hasn't happened. Correct. The other army commanders will think we're insane. The other army commanders aren't going to be ready when it happens. Patton sits down, starts writing. When the Germans attack, and they will attack, Eisenhower is going to call a conference. He's going to ask how fast we can respond. Every other commander is going to say a week, maybe 10 days. He looks up, and his smile is cold, predatory. I'm going to tell him 72 hours. And I'm going to mean it. Koch and Muller exchange glances. This is either brilliant anticipation or career-ending paranoia. Get to work, Patton says. And keep it quiet. I don't need Bradley's staff telling me I'm seeing ghosts. The officers file out, leaving Patton alone with his maps and his instincts. On the wall, the Ardennes sector stares back at him, a quiet front where nothing has happened for months, where American divisions rest and refit, where the war seems far away. Patton knows better that he's fought Germans for 2 years, North Africa, Sicily, France. He knows how they think. Knows they're not beaten yet. Knows that a cornered enemy is the most dangerous kind. And he knows that somewhere across those lines, German commanders are planning something that everyone else thinks is impossible. An offensive. In winter. Through the Ardennes. It's exactly what he would do. 5 days later, at 5:30 hours on December 16, 1944, German artillery will open fire across the entire Ardennes front. 29 divisions will attack, and every Allied commander will be caught completely by surprise. Except one. But before we see how Patton's preparation paid off, we need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications for WWII battlefields. Here's why. Channels like this survive because of viewers like you who care about keeping these stories alive. Every week, we bring you the battles, the decisions, and the moments that textbooks skip over, the real stories of World War II, told the way they deserve to be told. We're not just reciting dates and names. We're taking you into the rooms where history was made, and sometimes, where it was predicted before anyone else saw it coming. So subscribe. Join the community. Because what happens next in this story, how Patton turned prediction into action, is something you won't want to miss. Now, let's get back to December 1944. The Germans are about to launch the largest offensive on the Western Front. And while every other Allied general is about to be blindsided, George Patton is waiting with his hand already on the trigger. December 16, 1944. 5:30 hours. Ardennes Forest, Belgium, the darkness explodes. 1,400 German artillery pieces open fire simultaneously along a 70-mile front. The barrage is biblical, shells screaming through the winter darkness, impacting American positions with sledgehammer force. Trees disintegrate. Foxholes collapse. Command posts vanish in eruptions of frozen earth and splintered wood. Private First Class John Fitzgerald, 106th Infantry Division, is asleep in a dugout near Schnee Eifel when the world ends. The first shell lands 30 yards away. The concussion lifts him off his bedroll and slams him against the earthen wall. His ears are ringing. Someone is screaming. Or maybe everyone is screaming that he crawls out of the dugout into chaos. The forest is burning despite the snow. Shells are landing everywhere, no pattern, no warning, just constant thunder. Through the smoke and flame, he sees German searchlights clicking on, their beams reflecting off low clouds, turning night into an artificial twilight that silhouettes American positions. Then the searchlights start moving. They're mounted on tanks, dozens of them. Hundreds of them. Panzers and Panthers and Tiger IIs emerging from the tree line like prehistoric monsters, their engines growling, their guns already firing. Behind them, German infantry, thousands of men in white winter camouflage, invisible against the snow until they're close enough to kill. The 106th Division has been in combat for exactly 4 days. They're green, inexperienced, still learning the difference between training and war. Now they're learning fast. Radio operators are screaming into handsets, contact. Heavy contact. Armor and infantry, battalion strength, no, regiment strength. The transmissions cut off mid-sentence. Not because the radios fail. Because the operators die. Within 2 hours, the entire American line is collapsing. At 1st Army Headquarters in Spa, Belgium, General Courtney Hodges receives the first reports with disbelief. An attack? In the Ardennes? In winter? The Germans don't have the fuel for this. Don't have the reserves. Don't have the capability. Except they do, and they're doing it. By 8 o'clock hours, German spearheads have penetrated 6 miles. American regiments are surrounded, cut off, dying in frozen forests. Communication lines are severed. Chain of command is fracturing. Nobody knows how many Germans are attacking or where they're going. But at 3rd Army Headquarters in Nancy, 200 miles south, Colonel Oscar Koch walks into Patton's office with an intelligence summary and a grim expression. It's happening. Patton doesn't look up from the map he's studying. How bad? Bad. 1st Army reports attacks across the entire Ardennes front. Multiple panzer divisions. They've broken through in at least 3 places. Where's Hodges? Pulling back. He's trying to establish a defensive line, but the front is too wide and too fluid. Now Patton looks up, and his eyes are ice. He's reacting. That's what they want. Koch nods. What do we do? Patton stands, walks to the wall map, the same map he's been staring at for weeks. His finger goes immediately to the German penetration. Get me the plans. All 3 versions. Sir. The contingency plans we wrote last month. The ones everyone thought were crazy. Patton's smile is thin, dangerous. Get them. Now. December 18, 1944. 11 o'clock hours. Verdun, France. The conference room in the ancient fortress city is packed with American commanders, all of them trying to understand how the impossible just happened. General Dwight D. Eisenhower stands at the head of the table, his face drawn with exhaustion. Bradley is there, looking shaken. Devers. Staff officers from SHAEF. Intelligence analysts. And Patton, who drove through the night to get here, arriving with mud-splattered jeep and a briefcase full of plans. The maps tell a story of catastrophe. German forces have punched a bulge 50 miles deep into American lines. The 106th Division has been destroyed, 2 entire regiments surrounded and forced to surrender, the largest American capitulation since Bastogne. The 28th Division is shattered. Bastogne, a critical crossroads town, is about to be encircled. The entire Allied front is in danger of being split in two. Gentlemen, Eisenhower begins, his voice steady despite the disaster. The present situation is to be regarded as one of opportunity for us and not of disaster. There will be only cheerful faces at this conference table. Patton actually grins. He's one of the few. Eisenhower continues, the Germans have stuck their neck out. We're going to cut it off. The question is how fast we can move forces north to contain them. He looks around the table. Brad, how quickly can you shift units? Bradley, commanding 12th Army Group, looks at his notes. I can have elements of the 7th Armored Division moving within 24 hours. The 10th Armored within 48. But to move corps-sized formations. He shakes his head. A week. Maybe more with these road conditions. Eisenhower turns to Devers. Jake? Same timeline. Week to 10 days to reorient and attack with significant force. The mood in the room darkens. A week is an eternity. In a week, the Germans could be at the Meuse River. Could be threatening Antwerp. Could turn this breakthrough into a strategic disaster. Then Eisenhower looks at Patton. George? How long for Third Army? Every eye in the room turns to Patton. His Third Army is the farthest away, 100 miles south, currently engaged in heavy fighting in the Saar. To disengage, turn 90 degrees, march north through winter weather on inadequate roads, and attack into the teeth of a German offensive? It's impossible. I can attack with 3 divisions in 72 hours, Patton says calmly. The room erupts. George, be serious, you can't possibly, the logistics alone. Patton pulls a folder from his briefcase, drops it on the table. Inside are detailed movement orders, route assignments, supply calculations. Complete operations plans for pivoting 3rd Army North. 4th Armored Division, 26th Infantry Division, 80th Infantry Division, he says. They'll attack north from Arlon on December 22. 3 days from now. I'll hit the German southern flank, drive to Bastogne, and cut their offensive in half. Bradley is staring at him like he suggested flying to the moon. George, you're in the middle of an offensive. Your divisions are committed. Your supply lines are stretched. How can you possibly? I've already done the planning. Patton taps the folder. Movement orders go out today. First convoys roll tonight. We'll be in position by the 21st, attack on the 22nd. Eisenhower picks up the folder, flips through the pages. His expression shifts from skepticism to something close to amazement. These aren't rough concepts. They're complete operational plans, routes, timing, logistics, everything. When did you prepare these? Eisenhower asks quietly. 3 weeks ago. The room goes silent. You planned for this? Bradley's voice is barely above a whisper. Before it happened? Patton shrugs. The Germans had been massing forces opposite the Ardennes for a month. It didn't take a genius to figure out what they were planning. He looks at Eisenhower. I told you they'd attack. You told me I was paranoid. Eisenhower doesn't respond to that. He's still reading the plans, checking the numbers, verifying the calculations. Finally, he looks up. If you can do this, if you can actually pivot 3 divisions and attack in 72 hours, it changes everything. The Germans are counting on a week before we can respond. If you hit them in 3 days. He trails off, seeing the strategic implications. They'll be caught with their pants down, Patton finishes. They've committed everything to this offensive. If I hit their southern flank while they're still pushing west, I'll roll them up. And if you can't make the timeline? Bradley asks. If the movement bogs down, if the roads are too icy, if supply breaks down? Patton's eyes are cold, certain. I'll make the timeline. Eisenhower makes his decision. Do it. Third Army pivots north. Bradley, you coordinate with George on boundaries and objectives. I want, an aide rushes in with a message. Eisenhower reads it, and his face goes gray. Bastogne is surrounded. The 101st Airborne and elements of the 10th Armored are cut off. They're requesting permission to withdraw. The room holds its breath. Bastogne is the critical crossroads, 7 major roads converge there. If the Germans take it, they can move armor and supplies freely. If the Americans hold it, the entire German offensive gets bottlenecked. But the units there are surrounded, outnumbered, and running low on everything. What do we tell them? An aide asks. Patton speaks before Eisenhower can. Tell them to hold. Tell them Third Army is coming. In 3 days? The aide sounds skeptical. In 3 days. Patton stands, gathering his folder. Gentlemen, the 101st just needs to hang on until December 26th. After that, they won't be surrounded anymore. He salutes Eisenhower and walks out, already issuing orders to his staff officers who are waiting in the hallway. Behind him, the conference continues, discussions of boundaries, reserves, air support. But the critical decision has been made. George S. Patton is pivoting Third Army north. The Germans think they have a week. They have 3 days, December 18, 1944. 1400 hours. Ziegenberg Castle, Germany. Field Marshal Model receives the intelligence report from his operations officer and reads it twice, certain there must be an error. Confirm this, he orders. 30 minutes later, the confirmation arrives. American Third Army is disengaging from the Saar. Vehicle columns are being sighted moving north. Radio intercepts suggest large-scale repositioning. How long until they can attack? Model asks. His intelligence officer, the same Colonel von der Heydt who studied American commanders, checks his notes, rechecks them, unwilling to believe his own calculations. If it's Patton. He pauses. Sir, standard doctrine says 7 to 10 days. But the intercepts suggest they're moving faster than should be possible. How much faster? Von der Heydt looks up, and his face is pale. They might attack by December 22nd. That's impossible. That's 4 days from now. Yes, sir. It's impossible. But it's Patton. Model stares at the map. The entire German offensive is predicated on time to reach the Meuse, time to take Antwerp, time before American reserves arrive. They calculated a week. Minimum. If Patton attacks in 4 days, if he hits the southern flank while German spearheads are still pushing west, the entire operation could collapse. He can't do it, Model says, but his voice lacks conviction. No commander can move that fast. Von der Heydt doesn't respond. He's staring at his intelligence reports, at the radio intercepts, at the pattern of American movements. And he's remembering what he told Model 2 weeks ago, in this same room, standing over photographs of American generals. We can track where he is. We just can't predict where he'll be. Now he knows, Patton will be exactly where they didn't want him to be, behind their lines. In 3 days. December 19, 1944. 1600 hours. Luxembourg City. The roads are a frozen nightmare, ice sheets 2 inches thick cover every surface. Snow is falling, not the gentle Christmas card kind, but hard, driving snow that cuts visibility to 50 yards. The temperature is 6 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill makes it feel like 20 below. And through this hell, 133,000 men are moving. The Third Army isn't marching. It's performing the most complex military maneuver in American history, a 90-degree pivot of 6 divisions while maintaining combat operations, executed in 48 hours with logistics that shouldn't be possible. Major General John Milliken, commanding 3 Corps, stands at a crossroads near Luxembourg City, watching his command flow past. Sherman tanks on flatbed transporters. Half-tracks loaded with infantry. Trucks towing artillery pieces. Jeeps. Ambulances. Supply convoys. Command vehicles. All of it moving north. The traffic control is chaos barely contained. Military police are at every intersection, whistles blowing, arms waving, trying to untangle columns that shouldn't be mixing but are because there aren't enough roads for this kind of movement. A tank transporter slides on ice, jackknifes, blocks the road. Engineers are there within minutes with cutting torches and cables. If it can be cleared, clear it. If not, push it off the road and keep moving. Nothing stops. Milliken's operations officer, Lieutenant Colonel Harold Cohen, appears with a clipboard and a grim expression. "Sir, we've got reports from division commanders. The 4th Armored says they're 12 hours behind schedule. The 80th Infantry is scattered across 4 different routes. Half of the 26th's artillery hasn't even left the SAR yet. And?" Cohen blinks. "Sir, at this rate we won't be in position to attack by December 22nd. We need to tell General Patton." "Tell him what?" "That we can't do it." Milliken's laugh is bitter. "You want to be the one to make that phone call?" "Sir, it's not about what Patton wants. It's about what's physically possible. We're asking men who've been in combat for months to disengage, march 100 miles in winter, and attack the strongest German force we've faced since Normandy. The logistics alone. The logistics are Patton's problem. Our problem is moving." Milliken points at the convoy grinding past. "Those men are moving. In 3 days, they're going to be attacking. So figure out how to make it work, because can't isn't an option." Cohen salutes and disappears back into the chaos, but Milliken knows he's right. This is impossible. Every army regulation, every logistics manual, every piece of conventional military wisdom says you can't do this. Patton is doing it anyway. December 19, 1944. 2100 hours. On the road to Arlon. Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, commanding the 37th Tank Battalion, 4th Armored Division, is somewhere in the dark, moving north in a column that stretches for miles. His Sherman tank, christened Thunderbolt 4, is riding on a flatbed transporter because the roads are too icy for tracked vehicles to drive safely. Behind him, the rest of his battalion is strung out in the darkness, tanks, half-tracks, supply trucks, all of them crawling north at 10 miles per hour. Abrams hasn't slept in 36 hours. His battalion was fighting in the SAR 2 days ago, brutal house-to-house combat in German industrial towns. Then the orders came: disengage, load up, move north. No explanation. No timeline. Just move. His radio crackles. "Thunderbolt 4, this is King 6. What's your status?" That's Combat Command B Headquarters, Colonel Herbert Tholt, his direct commander. "King 6, Thunderbolt 4. We're 20 miles south of Arlon, moving at approximately 10 miles per hour. Weather is shit. Visibility is shit. Roads are shit. Other than that, we're fantastic." A pause. Then, "Can you make attack position by 0600 on the 22nd? Abrams does the math in his head. It's currently 2100 hours on the 19th. They need to cover another 40 miles, refuel, rearm, get into assault positions, and be ready to attack in 57 hours. "Negative," he says. "We'll be 12 hours short. Make it work, Creighton." The old man says we attack on the 22nd, we attack on the 22nd. The transmission ends. Abrams lights a cigarette, stares out at the darkness. Around him, his battalion is grinding north, young men from Illinois and Texas and Pennsylvania, most of them still teenagers, all of them exhausted. He thinks about telling them it's impossible. That the timeline can't be met. That they're being asked to do something no army has ever done. Instead, he keys his radio. All Thunderbolt elements, this is 4. We're going to make this work. When we stop for refuel, we refuel in 30 minutes, not 2 hours. When we stop for maintenance, we fix what's broken and leave what isn't critical. When you think you can't keep moving, you move anyway. Because somewhere up north, American soldiers are surrounded and dying, and we're the only ones who can reach them. He pauses. So we're going to reach them. Thunderbolt 4 out. The radio stays silent. But up and down the column, tank commanders are passing the word. Drivers are gripping their wills tighter. The impossible march continues, December 20th, 1944. 8 o'clock hours. 3rd Army Headquarters, Luxembourg City. Patton is standing in front of a map that's been updated every hour, watching his army flow north like a river of steel. The reports are coming in from every division: mechanical breakdowns, traffic jams, units scattered across multiple routes, supply trucks running out of fuel. Every problem that could happen is happening, and they're still ahead of schedule. His operations officer, Colonel Halley Maddox, is coordinating the nightmare with the calm efficiency of a man conducting an orchestra. Phone to his ear, he's issuing orders: tell the 318th Infantry to bypass the traffic jam and take the secondary road through Edelbruck. Yes, I know it's not on the map. Make it work. No, the 10th Armored isn't with us, they're with 1st Army in Bastogne. We're going to Bastogne. Because that's where the Germans are, Colonel. He hangs up, immediately picks up another line. Patton watches him work, smoking a cigar, saying nothing. His Chief of Staff, Major General Hobart Gay, approaches with the latest logistics summary. George, we've got problems. Fuel consumption is running 20% higher than projected because of the weather. The 26th Infantry is still strung out across 3 routes. And the 4th Armored is reporting they'll be 8 hours behind schedule. So we attack 8 hours late, Patton says calmly. The plan says 0600 on the 22nd. Plans change. What matters is we attack on the 22nd. Morning, afternoon, I don't care. We attack. Gay hesitates. Ike called. He wants to know if we're going to make the timeline. What did you tell him? I told him we'd make it. Then we'll make it. Patton turns from the map. Hap, every commander in the European theater is watching us. Bradley thinks we're crazy. Montgomery thinks we're reckless. The British are taking bets on whether we collapse before we even reach the Germans. Maybe they're right. Patton's expression hardens. They're not right. They're afraid. Afraid of risk. Afraid of bold action. Afraid of doing something that might fail spectacularly. So they do nothing spectacularly instead. He stabs his cigar toward the map. The 101st Airborne is surrounded in Bastogne. They're running out of ammunition, medical supplies, everything. Every hour we delay, more of them die. So we're not delaying. Even if it means attacking with units that aren't fully prepared? Especially then. Perfect preparation is the enemy of timely action. The Germans are expecting us to do this by the book: wait until everyone's in position, coordinate the attack, minimize risk. That's what every other Allied commander would do. He smiles, cold and predatory. That's why they'll never see us coming. December 20th, 1944. 1500 hours. Bastogne, Belgium. Inside the encircled American perimeter, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, acting commander of the 101st Airborne Division, is reading the latest casualty reports when German artillery starts falling again. The shelling has been constant for 4 days. German infantry attacks probe the perimeter every few hours. Panzer units circle like sharks, looking for weak points. The Americans are outnumbered, surrounded, running low on everything that matters. McAuliffe's supply officer enters the command post, a basement in the center of town. Sir, ammunition status, we're down to 10 rounds per rifleman. Artillery is rationing to 5 rounds per gun per day. Medical supplies are critically low. We've got wounded lying in frozen cellars without morphine. How long can we hold? 48 hours. Maybe 72 if we're lucky. McAuliffe nods slowly. Through the basement window, he can see the town burning, buildings hit by artillery, fires that can't be fought because there's no water pressure, civilian refugees huddled in ruins because there's nowhere else for them to go. Any word from Third Army? He asks. The operations officer checks his notes. Last radio intercept suggested they're moving north. No ETA. First Army tried an attack from the north 2 days ago and got stopped cold. So we're on our own. Yes, sir. A runner arrives with a message, German officers under white flag, requesting a meeting. They're delivering an ultimatum. McAuliffe reads it. The Germans are demanding surrender. Honorable terms. Avoid needless bloodshed. The standard propaganda. What should I tell them? The runner asks. McAuliffe thinks for exactly 2 seconds. Then he scribbles one word on a piece of paper and hands it to the runner. Nuts. The runner blinks. Sir? That's my reply. Nuts. If they don't understand American, tell them it means, go to hell. The runner grins despite himself. Yes, sir. He leaves to deliver the message that will become legendary. McAuliffe turns back to his map. The perimeter is shrinking. German pressure is increasing. They can hold for maybe 3 more days before the position becomes untenable. Somewhere out there, George Patton is coming. The question is whether he'll arrive in time. Or whether the 101st Airborne will be writing its last stand into history first, December 21, 1944. 3 o'clock hours. German 5th Panzer Army Headquarters. General Otto von Manschufel is reading intelligence reports that refuse to make sense. Third Army is moving. That much is confirmed. But the speed of the movement, the scale of it, the sheer audacity of pivoting an entire army in the middle of winter? This is Patton, he asks his intelligence officer. Yes, sir. Radio intercepts confirm 3rd Army headquarters is now in Luxembourg City. Division-level traffic suggests at least 3 divisions are moving into attack positions south of Bastogne. Von Manschufel walks to his map. The German offensive has driven 50 miles into American lines, but it's starting to bog down. Bastogne is holding, those surrounded paratroopers are refusing to die on schedule. Fuel supplies are running low. American resistance is stiffening everywhere. And now Patton is coming from the south. When will he attack? The intelligence officer hesitates. Our calculations suggest December 27th at the earliest. More likely December 29th or 30th. It takes time to. He'll attack tomorrow, von Manschufel interrupts. Sir, that's impossible. No army can, Patton can. Von Manschufel's voice is flat, certain. He's not bound by conventional thinking. If he's moving now, he's moving to attack immediately, not to establish perfect positions. He turns to his operations officer. Pull the 1st SS Panzer Division from the northern sector. Redeploy them to face south. Reinforce the approaches to Bastogne. If Patton breaks through, our entire offensive is compromised. The orders go out, but von Manschufel knows the truth, they're reacting now. Responding to Patton instead of executing their plan. Which means the initiative has already shifted. And in war, initiative is everything. December 22, 1944. 5:30 hours. Arlon, Belgium, the artillery barrage begins in darkness. 18 battalions, over 200 guns, open fire simultaneously along a 12-mile front. The shells arc through the frozen air, impacting German positions with methodical fury. This isn't the chaotic, overwhelming bombardment the Germans used 6 days ago. This is surgical. Calculated. Each battery has pre-plotted targets, command posts, artillery positions, known strongpoints. Patton is standing on a hill overlooking the battlefield, binoculars raised, watching his army attack. Behind him, his command vehicle idles, engine running, radio crackling with reports from 3 divisions hitting the German southern flank simultaneously. 72 hours. He promised Eisenhower 72 hours, and here it is. The sky is clear for the first time in a week. P-47 Thunderbolts are already overhead, fighter bombers that spent 6 days grounded by weather, now screaming down on German positions with bombs and rockets. Tank columns are moving forward through the snow, exhaust trailing in the cold air. Third Army is attacking. Status: Patton barks at his operations officer. Colonel Maddox is reading reports off 3 separate clipboards. 4th Armored jumped off at 0600, 20 minutes behind schedule. They're encountering resistance at Martelange. Germans blew the bridge. 26th Infantry is attacking toward Wiltz, moderate resistance. 80th Infantry is pushing toward Edelbruck, heavy contact with dug-in infantry. Casualties? Light so far. The Germans weren't expecting us this soon. Patton allows himself a thin smile. No. They weren't. Because the German High Command calculated 7 to 10 days minimum response time. Their entire operational plan was built on that assumption: take Bastogne, push to the Meuse, turn north toward Antwerp before American reserves could respond. Patton has just destroyed that timeline. December 22, 1944. 7:30 hours. Martelange, Belgium. The bridge is gone, blown by German engineers as they retreated. What's left is stone rubble and twisted steel girders spanning the Schur River. On the far side, German paratroopers from the 5th Fallschirmjäger Division are dug into positions overlooking the crossing site. Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams sits in the turret of his Sherman, studying the position through binoculars. His battalion has been fighting continuously for 18 hours, first the approach march under artillery fire, then the assault on the German outpost line, now this. The river is 30 feet wide, frozen solid in places, running fast where it isn't. The far bank is steep, defensible terrain. German machine guns cover every approach. His radio crackles. Thunderbolt 4, King 6. What's your status? Bridge is destroyed. Encountering heavy resistance. Recommend we wait for engineers to construct a Bailey Bridge. ETA 4 to 6 hours. A pause. Then a different voice comes on, rougher, more familiar. Thunderbolt 4, this is Lucky Forward. Abrams sits up straighter. Lucky Forward is Patton's command post call sign. That's the old man himself on the radio. Lucky Forward, Thunderbolt 4. Go ahead, sir. Colonel, I did not move 3rd Army 100 miles in 3 days so you could sit on your ass waiting for engineers. Find a way across that river. Now. The transmission ends. Abrams stares at the radio for a moment. Then he starts laughing, a tired, slightly manic sound that makes his crew look at him with concern. Sir, his gunner asks carefully. The general wants us across the river now. Abrams is scanning the terrain again. There, 50 yards downstream, where the water runs slower. The ice looks thicker there. We're going through the river. Sir, tanks don't swim, they do today. Abrams switches to battalion frequency. All Thunderbolt elements, this is 4. We're crossing downstream where the ice is thick. 1st Platoon, you're with me. We go through the water, establish a bridgehead on the far side, suppress enemy positions. 2nd and 3rd platoons follow once we've secured the bank. Engineers, get your asses down here with demolition charges, we're clearing a path. He doesn't wait for confirmation. His Sherman pivots, accelerates, crashes through the riverbank vegetation and plunges into the Schur River. The water is 4 feet deep. The tank goes in with a massive splash, engine roaring, treads churning frozen riverbed. Water floods into the driver's compartment. The crew is screaming. German machine guns open fire, bullets sparking off the turret. And Abrams keeps moving. The Sherman climbs the far bank like a mechanical dinosaur, water pouring from its hull, main gun already traversing toward German positions. Behind him, 3 more Shermans are plunging into the river. One throws a track in the water, goes sideways, blocks the crossing. The crew bails out, swimming for the far bank while bullets chop the water around them. But 2 more tanks make it across, and suddenly, there are American tanks behind German lines, firing point-blank into defensive positions that were built to face the other direction. The German defense collapses. By 9 o'clock hours, combat engineers have cleared enough rubble for a temporary ford. By 11 o'clock, a Bailey Bridge is going up. By noon, the entire 4th Armored Division is across and pushing north. Patton gets the report at his command post and immediately radios Abrams. "Outstanding work, Colonel. How many tanks did you lose?" "2, sir. Both recoverable." "And how many Germans?" "Unknown, sir. They retreated before we could count them." Patton's laugh comes through the static. "That's because they weren't expecting you until next week. Keep pushing." Bastogne is 20 miles north. The 101st is waiting. December 22, 1944. 1400 hours. Bastogne perimeter. Inside the surrounded American pocket, Brigadier General McAuliffe is reading the latest situation report when he hears something unusual. Artillery fire. But not the German artillery that's been pounding them for days. This is coming from the south. From outside the pocket. His operations officer rushes in. "Sir, radio intercepts, we're picking up 3rd Army traffic. They're attacking from the south." McAuliffe walks outside into the frozen afternoon. Other soldiers are emerging from basements and foxholes, listening. The sound is unmistakable now, a rolling barrage, the distinctive crack of American artillery mixed with the deeper boom of German guns responding. Someone is fighting their way toward Bastogne. "How far away?" McAuliffe asks. "Unclear, sir. But close enough to hear." The surrounded paratroopers are looking south, toward the sound of salvation. They've been holding this position for 6 days, low on ammunition, out of medical supplies, eating frozen rations, sleeping in holes in the ground. They've buried their dead in frozen earth and treated their wounded with bandages torn from parachutes, but they've held, and now someone is coming. A sergeant from the 101st, a kid from Ohio named Michael Davies, stands at the southern edge of the perimeter, listening to the artillery. Another soldier joins him, then another, until there's a whole group of them standing there in the cold, just listening. "Think it's Patton?" Davies asks. An older soldier, a veteran from Normandy, nods slowly. "Has to be. Nobody else moves that fast." "How do you know it's fast?" "Because we've only been surrounded for 6 days. In 6 days, Patton moved an entire army 100 miles through winter and is already attacking to reach us." The veteran shakes his head in disbelief. "If it was anyone else, we'd be waiting 3 more weeks." Davies listens to the artillery getting closer. "Think he'll make it?" "Kid, this is George Patton. He told everyone he'd do it in 3 days. It's been 3 days. He'll make it." The soldiers stand there in the cold, listening to the sound of 3rd Army fighting toward them, and for the first time in 6 days, they believe they might actually survive this. December 22, 1944. 1600 hours. German 5th Panzer Army Headquarters. General von Manschufel is staring at reports that confirm his worst fears. American 3rd Army has attacked, not in a week as calculated, not in 10 days, but in 72 hours. They've broken through the southern defensive line at Martelange. They're pushing north toward Bastogne with armor and close air support. "How is this possible?" his operations officer asks. They were in the Saar 3 days ago. Von Manschufel doesn't answer immediately. He's studied Patton's campaigns, North Africa, Sicily, the breakout from Normandy, the drive across France. The man operates on principles that violate conventional military doctrine: speed over preparation, aggression over caution, initiative over security. It's possible, von Manschufel says quietly, because Patton doesn't care whether it's possible. He only cares whether it works. He turns to his chief of staff. Order the 167th Volksgrenadier Division to hold the approaches to Bastogne at all costs. Pull elements of the Führer Grenadier Brigade from reserve and position them to block Third Army's advance. And get me any available panzer units. We need to stop this breakthrough before it splits our entire offensive. The orders flow out. German reserves, already stretched thin by 6 days of offensive operations, are being shifted south to face Patton. Which means they're not pushing west anymore. Not threatening the Meuse. Not driving for Antwerp. They're reacting. Defending. Trying to contain an American counterattack that wasn't supposed to happen for another week. Von Manschufel looks at his map, at the red arrows showing the German offensive that's now stalling, at the blue arrows showing Third Army driving north like a knife. He's done it, von Manschufel says, almost admiringly. Patton has stolen our initiative. He's turned our offensive into his counteroffensive. Can we stop him? Von Manschufel is quiet for a long moment. I don't know. But I know this: every hour we spend fighting Patton in the south is an hour we're not advancing in the west. He's changed the entire character of the battle. The question now isn't whether we can reach the Meuse, it's whether we can avoid being encircled ourselves. December 22, 1944. 1900 hours. Third Army Headquarters, Luxembourg. Patton is eating dinner, canned hash and coffee, when the reports come in from all 3 divisions. 4th Armored, advanced 8 miles, currently engaging German resistance at Bougainville. Casualties moderate. Morale excellent. 26th Infantry, cleared Wiltz, pushing north. Heavy resistance from Volksgrenadiers. Progress slower than expected but steady. 80th Infantry, fighting for Edelbruck. Significant German defensive positions. May need additional artillery support. Colonel Maddox summarizes, we're ahead of schedule on the 4th Armored, slightly behind on the infantry divisions. Overall, the attack is progressing better than projected. Patton doesn't smile. Doesn't celebrate. He just nods and returns to studying his map. Distance to Bastogne, 4th Armored is currently 15 miles out. At current rate of advance, they could reach the perimeter in 48 hours. Not good enough. The 101st has been surrounded for 6 days. They need relief now, not in 2 days. Patton picks up the phone, gets Abrams on the line. Creighton, how fast can you push? Abrams' voice is tired but determined. Sir, we're encountering strong resistance. Germans are throwing everything they have at us. If we push too fast without infantry support, we risk getting cut off ourselves. I don't care about risk. I care about the 101st Airborne dying in Bastogne while we take our time being careful. Patton's voice is steel. You will reach Bastogne by December 26th. I don't care if you have to drive through German lines, around them, or over them. You will reach Bastogne. A pause. Then, yes, sir. We'll reach Bastogne. Patton hangs up, returns to his map. His staff watches him in silence. They've seen this before, Patton pushing beyond what seems reasonable, demanding the impossible, somehow getting it. Major General Gay approaches carefully. George, the men are exhausted. They've been fighting for 3 straight days after a forced march. Maybe we should what? Give them a rest? Let them sleep while American soldiers die 20 miles away? Patton's eyes are cold. Hap, I didn't come here to fight carefully. I came here to win quickly. Every hour we delay costs lives. So we don't delay. He walks to the window, looks out at the night. Somewhere north, in the darkness, the 101st Airborne is holding a shrinking perimeter against overwhelming odds, and 15 miles south, Creighton Abrams tanks are grinding through German defenses, pushing toward that perimeter with everything they have. The race is on, and George S. Patton has no intention of losing. December 23, 1944. 10 o'clock hours. Skies over Belgium, the weather breaks. For the first time in a week, the clouds lift. Sunlight, pale winter sunlight, breaks through the overcast, and suddenly the sky fills with aircraft. C-47 transport planes, hundreds of them, flying in formation toward Bastogne. Their cargo bays are packed with ammunition, medical supplies, food, everything the 101st Airborne has been running out of for 6 days. Escorting them are P-47 Thunderbolts and P-51 Mustangs, weaving patterns in the sky, daring the Luftwaffe to challenge them. Inside the Bastogne perimeter, soldiers emerge from their frozen holes, pointing at the sky, shouting. Parachutes blossom, red, white, blue canopies drifting down like flowers. Some land inside the American lines. Some land in German-held territory and are lost. But enough make it through, enough to keep fighting. Brigadier General McAuliffe stands in the snow, watching supplies fall from the sky, and for the first time in days, he allows himself to believe they might actually survive this. But supplies aren't the same as relief. The Germans are still out there, still attacking, still trying to crush the pocket before Third Army arrives. The question isn't whether they can hold any more, it's whether they can hold long enough. December 24, 1944. 8 o'clock hours. Chaumont, Belgium. The 4th Armored Division has covered 12 miles in 2 days, which sounds insignificant until you understand what those 12 miles cost. Every town is fortified. Every crossroads is defended. German Volksgrenadiers and paratroopers fight from basements, from rubble, from positions that have to be cleared building by building. Panzerfausts strike from unexpected angles. Anti-tank guns open fire at point-blank range. The advance is measured in yards, paid for in blood. Lieutenant Colonel Abrams has lost 14 tanks, some destroyed, some disabled and awaiting recovery. His battalion is down to 60% strength. The men are hollow-eyed, running on coffee and adrenaline, sleeping in their vehicles when they sleep at all. But they're still moving. At Chaumont, they hit the strongest German position yet, a reinforced company of Panzergrenadiers with dug-in anti-tank guns covering the approach road. The first Sherman to advance is hit immediately, brewing up in a gout of flame. The second tank takes a round through the turret. The advance stops. Abrams is on the radio immediately. King 6, Thunderbolt 4. We've got heavy at defenses at Chaumont. Request air support and artillery. Negative, Thunderbolt 4. Air support is committed to Bastogne resupply. Artillery is supporting the 26th Infantry's attack on Wiltz. You're on your own. Abrams stares at the burning tanks, at the town beyond, at the Germans who are dug in and waiting. On your own, the story of this entire offensive. He switches to battalion frequency. All Thunderbolt elements, listen up. We don't have air. We don't have artillery. We have tanks and infantry and the knowledge that American soldiers are dying 3 miles from here while we sit on our asses. So here's what we're going to do. He outlines the plan, simple, brutal, effective. Half the battalion will lay suppressing fire while the other half flanks through a forest the Germans assume is impassable for armor. They'll hit the position from the side while German guns are oriented forward. It's risky. It's aggressive. It's exactly what Patton would do. Execute in 15 minutes. Thunderbolt 4 out. The flanking attack goes in at 9:30 hours. 6 Shermans and 2 companies of armored infantry disappear into the forest, branches scraping against turrets, tracks churning through snow and frozen undergrowth. The forest isn't impassable. It's just difficult enough that the Germans didn't think anyone would try it. They're wrong. The Shermans emerge on the German flank at 10:15, guns already firing. The Panzer Grenadiers are caught completely exposed, their defensive positions face the wrong direction, their anti-tank guns can't traverse fast enough, their infantry is scattered. The position collapses in 20 minutes. By 11 o'clock hours, Chaumont is American, and the 4th Armored is moving again. 3 miles from Bastogne, December 25, 1944. 6 o'clock hours. Bastogne perimeter. Christmas morning in hell. The temperature has dropped to 5 below zero. German attacks have intensified, they know American relief is close, and they're desperate to crush the pocket before it arrives. Artillery falls constantly. Panzer units probe the perimeter, testing for weak points. Inside a frozen cellar serving as an aid station, Captain Jack Pryor, a surgeon with the 101st, is operating on a soldier with a belly wound. There's no anesthesia left, just morphine, and they're almost out of that too. The soldier screams while Pryor works by flashlight, his hands steady despite the cold, despite the exhaustion, despite everything. Outside, in the frozen foxholes, soldiers share what little food they have, mostly hard biscuits and frozen water. Someone has scratched "Merry Christmas" on the side of a burned-out tank. The dark humor keeps them sane. A young replacement, Private Eddie Gomez from Texas, been with the 101st for exactly 9 days, sits in his foxhole cleaning his rifle with shaking hands. An older soldier, Sergeant Bill Walters, watches him. "First Christmas away from home?" Walters asks. "First Christmas in a war," Gomez replies. "Could be worse." "How?" "You could be spending it in a German POW camp instead of a foxhole." Walters grins without humor. "At least we're still fighting." Gomez looks at him. "You really think Third Army is coming?" "I know they are. Heard the artillery yesterday. They're close. Just have to hang on a little longer." "How much longer?" Walters listens to the distant rumble of combat. "Soon, kid. Real soon." December 26, 1944. 1400 hours. Assenois, Belgium. This is it. The final barrier, the village of Assenois, sits 4 miles south of Bastogne, astride the main road. German paratroopers have turned it into a fortress, anti-tank guns in every building, machine guns covering every approach, Panzerfausts waiting in cellars. Beyond Assenois is Bastogne. Beyond Assenois is the 101st Airborne. Beyond Assenois is the objective that Patton promised to reach in 72 hours, a promise now 10 days old, paid for with blood and determination and impossible speed. Lieutenant Colonel Abrams stands in his Sherman, studying the village through binoculars. His battalion is down to 30 operational tanks. His infantry is exhausted. His supply situation is desperate, but they're 4 miles from Bastogne. For miles, the radio crackles. Thunderbolt 4, Lucky forward. Status? Patton. Always Patton, pushing, demanding, never satisfied with good enough. Lucky forward, we're at Assenois. Heavy resistance. Estimate 2 to 4 hours to clear the town if we proceed methodically. Methodically? Patton's voice is sharp. "Colonel, I did not send you here to be methodical. The 101st has been surrounded for 10 days. They're out of everything. For more hours might be 4 hours too long." Abrams takes a breath. "What are you suggesting, sir?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm ordering you to go through that village. Not around it. Through it. Fast and violent. Don't stop for anything. Get to Bastogne." The transmission ends. Abrams looks at the village, at the German guns, at the defensive positions, at what should be an impossible assault. Then he makes his decision. "All Thunderbolt elements, this is 4. We're going through the village at maximum speed. Column formation. Don't stop to engage unless fired upon directly. Half-tracks stay tight on the tanks. We're going to punch through to Bastogne in one charge. Acknowledge. One by one, his platoon leaders respond. They think he's crazy. They're probably right. But they're going anyway. At 14:30 hours, Lieutenant Charles Bogus Sherman, designated Cobra King, leads the charge. The tank accelerates to 20 miles per hour, crashing through the first German roadblock, machine guns firing, main gun hammering buildings. Behind it, 4 more Shermans and 6 half-tracks loaded with infantry follow in a roaring column of steel and fury. German anti-tank fire erupts from every direction. The second Sherman takes a hit, slews sideways, keeps moving on damaged tracks. A half-track explodes, killing everyone inside. Panzerfausts detonate against tank armor, some penetrate, some don't. And Cobra King keeps moving, through the village center, past burning buildings, over German defensive positions that can't react fast enough to the sudden assault. Infantry in the half-tracks are firing from the vehicles, not even dismounting, just pouring lead into windows and doorways as the column races through at suicidal speed. The Germans are firing, killing, destroying, but they can't stop the charge. At 14:47 hours, Cobra King crashes through the northern edge of Assinois and emerges into open ground. Ahead, across a frozen field, are foxholes. American foxholes. The Bastogne perimeter. Lieutenant Bogus doesn't slow down. His Sherman roars across the field, churning snow, heading straight for the nearest defensive position. Soldiers emerge from their holes, paratroopers, recognizable by their distinctive helmets and patches. The 101st Airborne, Bogus stands up in his turret, waving, shouting. "We're from the 4th Armored. We're here to relieve you." For a moment, there's silence. The surrounded paratroopers just stare at the approaching tanks like they're seeing ghosts. Then someone starts cheering. Then everyone is cheering, men climbing out of frozen foxholes, waving helmets, shouting, laughing, some of them crying. The siege of Bastogne is over, December 26, 1944. 16:45 hours. 3rd Army Headquarters, Luxembourg. Patton receives the radio message at exactly 16:47 hours. Lucky forward, Thunderbolt 4. We're in Bastogne. Link-up complete. The 101st is relieved. The operations room erupts in cheers. Staff officers are shaking hands, slapping backs. Colonel Maddox is grinning like he just won the lottery. Patton reads the message twice. Then he walks to the wall map, picks up a grease pencil, and draws a line from Arlon to Bastogne. 100 miles. Covered in 7 days. Through winter weather. Against German opposition. Culminating in a breakthrough that every military expert said was impossible. "Get me Eisenhower," he says quietly. The call goes through to Supreme Headquarters. Eisenhower comes on the line immediately. "George? I'm hearing reports, we're in Bastogne, Ike. The corridor is open. The 101st is relieved." Silence on the other end. Then, "How many casualties?" "Acceptable. I'll have detailed numbers later." "George." Eisenhower's voice is strange, relief, pride, exhaustion all mixed together. "You did it. You actually did it. I told you I would. In 3 days. You said 3 days and it took 7. I said I'd attack in 3 days. I did. Took 4 more days to reach them. Still faster than anyone else could have done it." Patton's voice softened slightly. "The 101st held, Ike. Those kids held for 10 days surrounded, outnumbered, out of everything. They deserve the credit. They'll get it. But so will you." Eisenhower pauses. The German offensive is stalling. Model is pulling units from the western advance to face you in the south. You've done more than relieve Bastogne, you've stopped their entire offensive. Patton looks at his map, at the red arrows showing German forces that were driving west and are now turning south to face him. That was the plan, he says simply. After the call ends, Major General Gay approaches. George, the men need rest. We've been in continuous combat for a week. If we push any harder, we're not stopping. Patton's finger is already tracing routes on the map, pointing north toward Houffalize, where First Army is pushing south. We're going to link up with Hodges, trap everything the Germans have in the Bulge, and destroy it. The relief of Bastogne was the beginning, Hap. Not the end. The beginning? The Germans stuck their head in a noose when they attacked. We just tightened it around Bastogne. Now we're going to hang them with it. He's already issuing new orders, planning the next phase, thinking 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still catching up to the last move. Because that's what George S. Patton does. That's what he's always done. While other generals react to the battle in front of them, Patton fights the battle he sees coming. While others calculate what's possible, Patton does what's necessary. While others follow doctrine, Patton writes his own. The Germans calculated that Third Army needed a week to respond. Patton gave them 3 days. They calculated he'd be cautious, methodical, by the book. He gave them aggressive, relentless, and completely unorthodox. They tracked every Allied general, studied their patterns, predicted their responses. Except the one who saw them coming.